Hi, everybody. This is James McPrug, and welcome to Life After Death and Beyond. And lovely to have you here, and listeners and viewers if you're viewing. And I'm here with my good friend Kelly White. Hello, Kelly.
Hi, James. Hi,
Hi.
everybody.
It's such an honor to work with everybody and to be able to do this show, this podcast, and help everybody. And one thing I want to say, Kelly, at the bat, we were having a 12-day Christmas sale at my school, the JVP School of Mystical Arts. And we've had such great comments from people who have bought some of the courses in the 12-day special we have. But the comments have been so wonderful and gracious and lovely. It's the biggest sale of the year that we have. We have all the courses on sale. So I want to thank everybody for their lovely comments. And I'm so happy that I've inspired a lot of people to go inside and to look further inside and see what they find. So thank you. I had to say that first.
I'm so glad you said that, because we're going to talk about this year. Part of the theme of this year is spirituality, James. So people that do this work, if you're offering a special discount right now, it's really important.
It really, and it's across the board. There were 42 courses, all different types of courses too, from forgiveness to life transformation to mediumship to preserving your energy, becoming aware of other people's energy in your space, tools for the highly sensitive. So all different types of things to explore. And Kelly, I think that, as you know, we learn the quickest when we open up our minds and want to learn, when there's a sense of encouragement. I want to do something, learn about myself, explore something new. And that forum allows that. And I'm really happy because it's my legacy. And I'm very happy the way it's going and the response from people. So,
fantastic.
Tonight's show is going to be really amazing. I don't know about you, Kelly, but with me, I'm finding things getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster.
Yes. Yeah, I sure am too, James. We're already at the end of the year.
Wow.
Seems like we just did 2024 predictions.
My God, we did. And it's so strange because, they say the old adage, when you get older, things get faster because maybe the body slows down. But I think it's a little bit more than that. Don't you think the frequency has changed?
Yeah, I do. I think it has changed. And I think things are moving up very quickly, actually.
Very, very fast. Mm-hmm. And there's just some of the predictions we made years ago about a lot of these things that have already happened. And we have predicted. So today's show is going to be really about what we feel about 2025. And Kelly and I go about it maybe in different ways. And I just want to say at the beginning of this. So the way, Kelly, you'll explain how you work. And how I do this is I'm a very good follow-up person. So Kelly, how do you do predictions?
Well, I love to use Vedic astrology for predictions. It's
and why is that, honey? Why is that?
Because it's where the planets exactly are. So it's perfect for prediction. So I love to use that. And as I'm talking about a certain aspect, I look for the year. I have looked at really challenging aspects, because this is where we learn. We learn where the eclipses are. We learn where the conjunctions are. We learn certain things that will come up during the year through an astrological lens, which is what I'm using.
And the person doesn't need to know Vedic astrology.
No, not at all.
For you to predict that you know it. Mm-hmm. And how much of it is intuition as well?
Well, what happens is, James, we will look at some of these major planetary situations that I see coming up. And then we will use your psychic ability, my intuition, my psychic ability, and we'll kind of go from there.
Okay.
It's a roadmap, if you will.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say to everybody that I wrote a little thing here for today, as I'm writing it for all day. But I just wanted to make sure that it's very clear for everybody that when we talk about these things, it's what we tune into. I tune in right at the moment. I've gotten some things I've gotten earlier, but I want everyone to remember that we are souls having a human experience, and we've came back here for experiences. And those experiences, I think it's really important, and I wrote some directions down here, that number one, we have to realize that we are souls having this human experience, and we shouldn't judge it. It's an experience that we have to go through, that we've chosen to come back here. So whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, we shouldn't even be judging it. It's just an experience. You think, Kelly?
It's an experience. And, I want everybody to remember that this is a really important time going forward, because we will learn so much, which is why we incarnated for this period of time. Our souls are going to grow. It's a critical time of growth.
And it forces, there's some things happen in the world and in our lives that it forces us to go within. It forces us to change the way we're thinking, forcing us to make choices in a different way, forces us to look at things and ourselves in a different way. And that's how we do. We grow, we understand. I'll never forget when they say to me, the spirit world said, our greatest teachers are our family members because we're right there with them, and they're a reflection to you. They're a mirror to yourself. So what we say, what we get today, and what we feel or sense or astrologically get a hit on, these are things that are good, can happen, right? Can happen.
Yes.
And I don't want to say the carved in stone necessarily.
No.
These are just some insights that we have. And I don't want anyone to stay glued to that because things can change. We all have free choice and free will. And so, when I do psychic readings, what I'm seeing or sensing at that particular moment. So that's how I work. But I also think it's important as we go through this next year to remember that we need to have empathy. We need to have love and compassion and caring. And again, not judging others, not judging the experience, just going through it and having that empathy. Empathy is wisdom. It really is wisdom. We never know why things happen to certain people, or good, bad, or indifferent. Things happen for a reason. We might not know the reason right away. It might take many, many years behind that. So just coming from a lens that my good friend Kelly talks about, having a lens of empathy, non-judgment, and awareness, helping us more to be more aware and more mindful of our lives and those of others, and how we can grow spiritually on this planet.
That was beautifully said. Absolutely.
It's important that when we do this, people have that understanding that it's like a psychic prediction. Here it is. It's bigger than that. There's lessons here. These are subjects that we've chosen to go through, and it's really, really important. I also want to mention, Kelly, last night was a full moon. Right? Mm-hmm. Was it in Taurus?
It was on Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah, you're right. Yesterday was Sunday. That's how fast time is speeding up. Yes.
And was it in Taurus in Western astrology?
In Vedic astrology, it was in Taurus. Yes.
In Vedic astrology, it was in Taurus. Okay, good. So really strong emotionally and very down to earth and that sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah, it was a magical moon, actually.
It was a magical moon, and I was with our two friends, Davia and Julie. And we walked out of this restaurant and we looked, and there was the full moon, and we all just held hands and we just set our intentions and used that beautiful lunar energy.
It's perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. So I also want to start off by saying that life is a series of choices, either love or fear. And don't let things throw you sometimes. So it's just something people get freaked out sometimes. We say certain things. Don't go there. I don't know how to say it. It's a book. We're reading chapters, we're reading pages. So, yeah. Okay. When I started, if I could start, Kelly, when I started tuning in to next year, it seems like next year, 2025, is going to be a year of extremes. And the word extremes kept on coming up over and over and over again. Extremes. I don't know if you got that, but it's really important that we're going to see things are not going to be just, they'll be extremes. Yeah.
I would call it a monumental year for change.
A monumental year.
And it's a different year than what we've experienced. I mean, first of all, the year 2025, James, is a 9 year for the world. So 2024 was an 8 year, and 2024 was an 8 year, which is 8. The number 8 is ruled by Saturn, which made it pretty karmic, but it also brought a lot of strength to everybody. This 2024, we learned a lot about ourselves during 2024, the strength that we had to continue on. 2025 is a little different because it's a 9 year.
So is that the endings, Kelly?
Yes, it means endings. It means completions. And James, nines are ruled by Mars. So it's the energy of Mars, which brings us all kinds of transformation, of change, and things come to a conclusion.
Obstacles open up, change. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's actually a time to let go of like the old structures that maybe restricted you and embrace change. You'll see, we'll be talking about that as a theme this year.
And Kelly, I'll never forget this. Was 2 years, 3 years ago when we talked about transformation. We're headed for big transformation. Well, this is a year that we've been talking about for 3 years. This is the actual year coming up of those transformations.
Yes, and to even double down on that, James, it's the year of the wood snake. So in Chinese astrology, they use, this year has been, 2025 was the year of the wood dragon, which had a lot to do with financial success and that kind of a thing. But the wood snake is very different. The last time we had the wood snake was 1965. but it really is all about transformation. If you think of a snake shedding its skin,
Yeah.
also the color of this wood snake this year is green. And
I
I
knew
think
you were going to say
green,
that. I
right,
knew you were going
it's
to say
green is healing, right?
It's growth. Green is growth and healing. Exactly right.
Spiritual growth and healing and
And that's, I
wisdom.
mean, that's what we're here to change and grow and transform. And a snake, it's a great, I love it. I love that.
I thought so too. I thought it was really interesting. Now, there are a couple of highlights before we kind of get into everything that I did want to just mention that I thought was kind of fascinating for this year. So since November, James, November, December, January, February, March, and April of 2025. So far, this is the second month, but we have 4 more months left. It's interesting to me that every full moon from November to April has been at a 29 degrees. Now,
And what does that mean,
29 degrees means, again, the ending. It means the ending. It also means it's a critical degree for karma. So it means an intense experience. It's so unusual that would happen, for all these full moons, the next 4 months of full moons. And
it's been a lot of full moons. It's very, very interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was just thinking about when I was writing this down here about about change and transformation. And I remember this wonderful meditation Brian Weiss did once, and it was really called the mountain meditation. And really what it goes into is what everybody should kind of be aware of, that you're the mountain and the seasons come and go. And you have winter, then the trees and the foliage dies off, and then you'll come to spring will come back there and everything grows, and then you have the summer, then you have autumn. So there's changes, and the changes happen on the mountain, but the mountain remains the same.
Oh, I love it.
So no matter what happens outside in the environment, you still are the same. You will still have that grounding. So that's important to remember as we go through this 2025.
Wow, I love that.
Right.
Also, I thought it was interesting too, is that every Mercury retrograde, so there'll be 3 Mercury retrogrades in a year. And I like to remind everybody, I love to see where Mercury is going to be retrograde. And this is interesting because all 3 of them will be in water signs. So in 2024, they were all in earth signs, and now we're all in water signs. So water signs bring emotions, and also I'm going to just suggest your possible water-related issues.
Water, yeah. I got a lot of that next year. A lot of water.
Did you?
We'll get into it, but yeah, a lot of water stuff and a lot of sensitivity, of course, a lot of emotional issues coming up. Yeah. And like you said, a lot of endings. Emotionally, a lot of endings, a lot of beginnings,
a lot of completions from the last several years, last 9 years, that people will be completing, which means that if you started something project that you haven't finished, this will be a year you'll finish it.
Yeah. And the way I work with Kelly, we've done this before, everybody, if you're listening here, is Kelly will start. I have a list of things that I've already tuned into, but Kelly might talk about a certain aspect of astrology, what looks like this could happen. And that'll set me off. And I really just open up and just download whatever I get from what Kelly's saying. So
one of the last things that I think that I'll mention before we get into the big astrology is on December 25th, on Christmas. James, it's really rare, but Hanukkah is also going to begin. Now, do you know the last time that happened was 2005? But before that, it was 1959, 1921, and 1019. Wow. Or 1910. Yeah. 1910.
Why? So why is that, Kelly?
Well, it had something to do with there was a leap year involved with Hanukkah. Yeah, so it was like such a rare thing, and I think that has meaning to it.
I do too. So do you want to jump in with predictions?
Yes, let's just jump on in. So the December 30th of this year, right as we're starting to get into the year of 2025, on December 30th, we have a really rare black moon. It's called a black moon because it's the second new moon in a year. In 1 month. So the first new moon was December 1st. The second is December 30th. And that is how we're going to begin the year. So a new moon asks us to end something and to begin something new. And I thought that was really kind of fascinating. But also on that same day of December 30th, James, Uranus finally has been retrograde, but it goes direct into Aries at 29 degrees. There's that 29 degrees again. You'll hear me mention 29. So that's going to be a very powerful day. If your birthday is December 30th, that's a powerful day. And stepping into the new year.
Yeah, it's like opening up a new door, is what I
Right.
see. Opening up a
Exactly.
brand new door.
I love that. So the first,
So as you do that, I'll keep on getting these things.
you keep getting, as soon as you get a hit, I will
Yeah.
just be very quiet and let you download.
Okay.
Between January 3rd and January 6th, Mars will oppose Pluto. And when that happens, that's a very powerful day. So it's powerful 3 days, January 3rd to January 6th. So it starts the year off in a powerful way. Again, Mars, the planet of war, the planet of energy, intensity, in a 9-year, opposes Pluto. Pluto is great transformation, explosive energy. So when they oppose each other, that could bring unexpected destinies.
Well, I got very strong surprises, like big, shocking surprises, good, better, and different, but there are surprises like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Oh, I didn't see that coming. I got that very strong. That in January it starts and it starts going.
It starts in January. And so, yes, surprises for sure. Now, January 20th, we all know that is Inauguration Day in the United States. And on that day, it's one of the most powerful days of the year, James. The sun and Pluto are conjunct that day on Inauguration Day. And so what does that mean? It means that the sun and Pluto are coming together. The sun represents leadership and the leader, and Pluto represents like to dismantle systems and structures and a blow up and intense transformational energy. So on that very day, there's a huge conjunction. It's so unusual. And guess what? Mars, the planet of war that has to trigger things off, moves back at 29 degrees again, James. There's that 29 degrees. So that's a big day. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I just want to be upheaval is what I get, upheaval. I feel that things won't go smoothly with transfer of power. I just think there'll be some upheaval. I don't know what that means. I don't think it'll be an easy transition. I just don't think so. I don't know if that's what I feel. I don't think it'll be a normal transition of that. That's what I get.
Yeah, it somehow it brings miscommunication on that day. There's a lot of miscommunication that goes on during that period.
I get a sense also between then, the first probably 3 months of the new administration, there's changes like crazy, like moving this cabinet member, that cabinet, changing very quickly, surprisingly quickly. I also think there'll be some violence done. I do, whether assassination or some. I think there'll be some kind of violence. I think there'll definitely be something there. I keep on seeing smoke. I do. I see fires and smoke around in January, month of January to the end of January. Can't tell you what it's about, but I know it looks like it's in DC. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. One good thing that happens during that period is on January 27th, Venus, which is the planet of love and art and finances, it goes into Pisces. It moves into in Vedic astrology. Everybody, I'm talking Vedic astrology. Guess what? It's exalted in it's exalted in Pisces. And so if you are an artist, it's an extraordinary time period for the year if you're an artist.
Well, I was going to say, it's funny because I'm starting in January to write my next book. And it was like, and I got that really strong hit as you did then. That's a time for people of a self-expression. Your art needs to be expressed. And I think we'll see some at the end of January, the new expressions of art that we never could think, wow, I wouldn't put that together with that. Wow, that looks great. Oh my gosh, look at that view. And I think there's going to be some new, it sounds very weird, programming, I guess you'd say, on television or something. Some new kinds of things that are done that kind of change the way we look at entertainment. Isn't that interesting?
And you also mentioned to me this afternoon when we were talking about groups coming together to do big kind of ticket things with music.
Yes,
and
so
art.
I remember We Are the World. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of that coming up. That this sort of like groups come together for the betterment of humankind, and it's also spiritually, an evolved year. And I feel that they come together for a spiritual upliftment, if you will, of humankind. Maybe to change perspectives, but it's a bringing together. It's a group coming together for the goodness of humankind.
I feel that way too, James, that it will. I think that all of this transformation and change that we see coming brings people together.
Yeah, I do feel also at that end of that month, January into February, some new, whether it's books, artwork, music, there's going to be some really some works that are done that are going to be classics that are going to be changing. Like, wow, they're going to be immediate classics. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Well, last week I remember I had a dream, and I have to tell everybody, and I was a dreamer. I was in the theater, and I was in the balcony, inside of the balcony. I looked in the second row, and all famous composers were there, and Aaron Copland, and Roger Hammerstein, and Stephen Sondheim, and all these incredible composers. And they said to me in one melding thought, we're working together on the living music.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So some of that energy will come into those on this vibrational space. They will be in the word inspired in spirit to create these great works.
And so don't you think that other people will also feel that inspiration?
100%. It's not limited. Everyone will feel it.
Right.
I feel like I remember go back to when I lived in this, Kelly, where you live. But I remember when I was a kid and I lived in New York, the East Coast, and those little snowflakes, and it feels like that. These little flakes of inspiration will touch everybody, and if you're aware of it and you're open to receiving that, use it. Expand your creative self. Let yourself fly. Let yourself have a great time. There's a wonderful time for that creative energy to flow.
It's terrific. And that lasts for months this year. Really pay attention to that creative spark, because it will be there.
And also, Kelly, I think with that creative spark, I think there'll be, of course, big changes at that time, January, February, March, with AI, internet, program, art, especially artwork done through AI, if you will. I think that's going to happen. There'll be masterpieces created. And it's be weird things like, wow, AI, but there'll be masterpieces when you mix two different mediums together, if you will.
Wow.
Not
Wow.
wild.
It is wild. Well, when we get into February, on February 7th, there's an exact conjunction, Rahu and conjuncts with Neptune. So what does that mean? Rahu is the north node, or the shadow planet. And Rahu represents opportunities for growth, and it teaches people to be strong and to keep going. Well, when it conjuncts Neptune in Pisces, so it means that it's right next to each other, very close. Rahu magnifies Neptune. So Neptune in Pisces, it's the dreamy planet, and it's in Pisces. But the last time this happened was about the Civil War time in 1862.
Wow.
So it's a very important conjunction to look at.
Right. And again, no judgment, just experience it, because it's very, very important. I get it. It's a very strong time to grow and go inside, and whether it's through meditation or a sense of mindfulness. And again, don't be quick to judge. Just be aware of what's going on, and try to uplift the planet. Whatever happens, upliftment is really important at that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do think there'll be an overgrowth of meditation, inner work done around that period as well.
Especially, James, when we get to March, but because there'll be a ton of that. You'll see why in a moment. But on February 11th, the sun will square Uranus again at that 29-degree mark. So that 29,
Kelly, what is 29 again? Repeat that.
29 is a karmic degree. It's a critical degree. It means a completion, but it's got a karmic twist to it. And when the sun, which is leadership, when it squares Uranus, that could bring explosive events and disruptions also. Yeah. So there are different time periods this year that we will talk about explosive events. Or
right. I think some of it, and whether it's governmental, but what I kept on seeing or sensing was a change in the departments, or the way that things are governed, that there will be some kind of changes made. Certain departments will be, and this has been talked about too, but I do think there'll be a changing of departments. I don't know how to say it, whether it's the CIA, the FBI, or the Interior, there'll be changes made. And I don't know how these change, but I know there'll be changes in departments. That's what I keep forgetting.
Well, and that could absolutely happen with these squares and these conjunctions. It could absolutely bring all kinds of change like that.
I don't think that Trump will stay where he is. I just get a sense that's not, I feel it's unstable, or there's an instability around that. Remember, I kept on saying administration feel like changes. Don't know how, but it feels like an instability. I want to say it's stable and it's solid, but I don't feel that way. And I don't know what that means. But that's what I feel. And that could be February into March, I think.
Well, let's talk about March, because something really large happens. Several large things happen in March. So March is everything is kind of like marching into March. March is a big month. It's a large month for everybody here. The first, so I always look at where the eclipses are, because I think eclipses are so important. They tell us what the year will be like. But the first eclipse is March 14th, and that's a total lunar eclipse, and it will be visible in America. Now, it's a K2 eclipse in Virgo, which again goes back to health issues and intense transformation and spiritual awakening. So that's that one. But the bigger one is on March 29th, and that's a solar eclipse. And let me tell you why the March 29th is, and we need to talk about this. It's extremely rare, and the reason it's so rare, it's a grand planetary alignment. James, there will be 7 planets lined up in Pisces. Seven. That has only happened 2 times in 2,000 years. I have chills just saying that.
Yeah. And it's in Pisces, which is sensitivity, emotions.
Yes, and it's water. So Pisces could bring tsunamis, flash floods.
Let me go on to my water for next year. Exactly.
There you go. This will open the door for
flooding. I saw lots of, like, even the icebergs changing drastically. So really changing drastically. The polar caps changing. I saw land masses changing from water, floods in villages, like a lot of flooding, a lot of that next year, a lot of changes of land, I want to say, through water. I kept on getting that really strongly. And also weather-wise, a lot of rain, a lot of, as you say, the water, because I got a lot of rain, a lot of flooding, a lot of rain. Extreme is what I'm going to say. Extreme water conditions. That's the best way to say it.
Well, and one of the things for me that I just keep sensing during that period, because it's just so rare to have 7 planets lined in one sign. It's just, It just doesn't happen. But to me, it meant war on the seas is like a possibility.
Mars and Pisces. Mars is war.
Exactly.
And
Mars,
Pisces is water. So
yes.
War on the seas, water. Yeah, war and water. That makes sense, Kelly. That makes a lot of sense. I think we're also going to see a lot more of the, right now they have the drones flying everywhere. I think
let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's going to increase. I think there's technology there. I think our government does know what's going on there. I think it's going to be a preamble to maybe some wartime possibilities, or I could say. Do I think it's from a foreign country? Don't know about that. Could be. Not sure. I think it might be our country preparing for something because they're not mentioning it. So I have a feeling they're using that as preparatory for something that might happen, like Star Wars, where you take things out from the sky. I keep on seeing that sort of a thing. Would that make sense?
That's totally what I think. That. I think because, again, if I look at the lens of astrology for 2025, there are a lot of events that can happen, a lot of situations that can happen. So to me, it looks like almost a setup, with these drones flying around, and it feels like the government knows all about it.
Well, I think it might be the government created it, but now they didn't do their job correctly in that. They didn't know what they were going to say about it. They didn't have that fully worked out yet.
I hate when that happens.
We rushed into that. We should have thought it out.
Somebody's going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, because I think it's a protection of of their bases, military bases, and economically. I just think it's almost like a practice run, but it's on a large scale.
Yeah, it's very true. And it's interesting too, with all of that energy in Pisces, it will turn people inward into spirituality. This is a huge year for spiritual work and spirituality.
That's funny you say that, as I got a hit also. It was very much that it's the spiritual sense, the intuition, it's going to unfold more and more for people, and it's there for the taking. And you are there to take it. It's there for the taking. Now is the time, in that March time, for them to do that. And, March to me is always the lion. Lion comes in spring, and I get that. But it is a time to leadership. It's spiritual leadership. It's spiritual growth. And I think that can really, it's a major time for healing as well, by the way.
Major
healings. And you'll see breakthroughs in medicine at that time. There'll be breakthroughs with nutrition. I think breakthroughs through even AI in medicine, robotics, if you will. I get a sense of that. I really. And
in mental health, there'll be a big increase in mental health. Helping with mental health.
I do think there'll be some, I don't want to say inventions, but openings in new medicines to help people in different ways. I think there'll be some kind of a cancer thing, a treatment that's going to help. It's going to be a very different one that's been done. I don't know what I'm saying here, but it feels as if there's going to be a new way of dealing with certain particular types of cancer with this new kind of medicine, if you will, or drug, what do you want to call it that. I think there'll be a lot more natural remedies as well. And I think that there are going to be more people going back to nature, back to the natural remedy field. I just get that sense.
Right. So the other thing, James, you're absolutely right on that. The other thing is the global economy with all of that energy in Pisces. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about economy, shall we? Go right ahead, Shelley.
Well, because this conjunction, this 7 planets, it makes turbulence in the financial markets and in the global economy. So it's going to go up and down and up and down. And people will make a lot of money. And then there'll be people that lose a lot of money. But it'll go, extremes is what I see.
But there we go. The extreme economy, same thing. There'll be lows and highs and very little in the middle. Yeah, I got that as well. I also got with that, if we can just jump around here with the economy, there'll be a lot more illegal unfolding awareness of large companies. They're going to be shown that they're doing illegal acts, or they've been doing it for a long time, almost like Puff Diddy, Daddy Diddy. But it'll be more of like large companies you would never expect, Fortune 500 companies, and you see they've done things illegally, and they're getting caught. In other words, I saw a lot of that. Firms they found out, chain stores, even food places that we know about. And they're going to find some illegal governing going on. Many government officials will be found out as well, and that's economy. There could be a sense of bank insecurity with financial markets going up and going out. As a possibility of crashing a little bit here and there, that it could be that could be. I also got a new type of currency, and that could be whether it's, I don't know.
Do you think that's Bitcoin? How do you see
like I say,
Bitcoin?
it's like a Bitcoin. And I got that it comes from a European country, Eastern European country. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
Eastern
very.
European country. And I think it's a very amazing time because it's so funny. Technically, I see things happening, but what the people don't know the full extent of it. It's like they're going to piecemeal the information out to the people in the world, and that's just the sense that I have. And I think there's going to be a big immersiveness in digital information regarding the economy, no doubt about it. There could be everybody's be very, very careful with credit cards and their banks online, all that stuff online. They got to be very, very careful because you're going to see that there'll be some hackers, if you will, financial hackers that will occur next year. I see that.
Wow.
Be extra careful with that. Yeah.
Wow.
What
do you see about political and social? Like,
let me get to my little page on the political and social.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of, reshaping of things. I feel like if new partnerships are going to come together, different dynamics here.
Yeah. Well, I went the whole flow of going through things, and it said war on different levels, whatever that means. And I also get lots of fakery with AI. It can even start wars and deal with economy and change economies, but it's based on illusions, and it's done through technology. Isn't that interesting? Cryptocurrency, strange new laws that don't make sense. Isn't that wild? Regarding the economy and currency, strange laws that don't really make sense.
Well, interesting, because when we talk about Neptune is illusion, James, and Rahu and Neptune come together. So it's exactly what you just said.
Wow.
It does bring illusion.
Yeah,
but I also think it brings social movements and humanitarian efforts. And I think that so many people come together in humanitarian to help humanity here.
I think there are going to be organizations that are formed via different countries come together, almost like like the Red Cross, where it's different countries coming together. You'd never expect to come together for humanitarian sake. And you'd never expect these countries to come together, but it's coming together for humanity. And I see it like in several groups, Kelly, not just one or two, but several groups. And they find that human compassion. They really do. I also think there's going to be change in borders around countries in the Middle East as well. I think there'll be a formation of different territories, if you will. And I think there's going to be I don't know. I got a real strong sense of calmness there where you wouldn't expect that, but there's going to be some strange sense of calmness. I picked up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I also have a feeling there's going to be a strong influence in Europe going down toward the Middle East. So I think it'll be a good influence to help heal, to help with the wars there. I think that Europe is going to be more involved in helping.
It just makes me wonder when I go back to Christmas and Hanukkah on the same day if that has some influence over that.
Wow. I mean, it could. I don't know.
It's interesting. Wow. So, I mean, March really does bring on a tremendous amount of spiritualness, growth, and change.
Right there. And I also got around that time, springtime, changes in, sounds really, really weird. But it was so weird how I saw this today. It was almost like a petri dish, and it was like a little seed, and working on growing different new plant materials that are more nutritional. I don't know how to say it that way, and planting these things and that are resistant to heat and extremes, if you will. I think that's going to happen in the springtime.
Well, let me tell you, the spring is really important. April and May are really important because all of the planets change signs. Again, something unheard of.
There's a name for that, right?
There is a name. I don't have the name
You're
for it.
in the middle of the change between this
sign and this sign. I mean, every the big planets are changing their signs, and in fact, during that period of time, Saturn and Rahu conjunct. And when Saturn and Rahu come together, that brings more upheaval in the world. And that's all of April and all of May. So there's a lot of change. In fact, in 1968, when Saturn and Rahu were together in Pisces in a conjunction, that was the Vietnam War. That was an assassination of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy. Wow. So when you said assassination, there will be assassination attempts on Trump.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah. I also get around that time, there's going to be medical breakthroughs in that, not breakthroughs, a changing of the structures in medical institutions. So whether HMOs or all different types of ways, there's going to be a change. There's also going to be some change with pharmaceutical companies. I don't know what that means, whether they're going to be brought back down, regulated more, or just gone crazy, but there's changes there as well. But I definitely feel and sense that there's going to be a change in the health field to, believe it or not, to bring more people applicable to able to afford healthcare. I think it's going to change the people. More people will be able to with this new type of, whether it's an organization or way of doing something. I do feel there'll be good changes in the health market for people.
Well, I'm sure that's correct because, James, the two eclipses in March, we have the two eclipses, the 14th and the 29th, and they're in Ketu Rahu, which is in which is in Virgo and Pisces, which has everything to do with health and the health field. So what you're saying there is that this will bring more change to that area that really needs help.
That's true. Yeah, I wrote some great advances in science and the arts as well, medical advances and insights. And also, I thought this was really interesting. I saw around the summertime, beginning of that, children prodigies. There's going to be a lot more awareness of children prodigies. And there'll be a big, big opening of those who are on the spectrum, autism. There's going to be more of an understanding of that. And it's going to be more embraced than it has before.
Oh, my gosh. Wouldn't that be lovely? That would be great because that's so important and we so need that right now. Wow.
If we go back to the waterways, Kelly, one thing I was noticing was that there'll be a notice of waterways that there'll be some toxins in certain waterways that's going to be, whether it's through metal, whether it's, there's going to be more discovery that there's some poison or toxins that people got to be aware of in the water system.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I also got an explosion off the coast of New Jersey. And it was a big explosion. I don't know what it was. I thought maybe it was oil refineries that are back there in New Jersey, but it was a big explosion. And something very strange. I'm going to say it. I don't know what it means, but I kept thinking something profound happens in Nebraska.
In Nebraska. What did you see on that?
Well, I don't know. It's a big. It's a big news item. I don't know if it's mass shooting, if it's something positive. It wasn't feeling great, but there's something with Nebraska that It's a news item at that time. I don't know what it is. Didn't get a clear insight, but I got the state of Nebraska. As I saw the state and saw the word Nebraska, and it was like an upheaval or something big happening there. That was right after the explosion of the New Jersey coast. But I got to tell you that it's interesting because I don't know. The great things come from the small things. You never expect it, but there's going to be growth from ways we never thought about. Even if there's something that happens, and we would say violent way or negative way, there's going to be some amazing extremes to the positive after those things happen. And it sounds weird to say it that way, but I don't know how else to explain it.
No, I agree with that.
There's good out of the bad, in other words. There's good out of the bad.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
On May 29th, Rahu, which is the North Node, changes. They change every 18 months, and it changes into Aquarius, and Ketu enters Leo, James, at 29 degrees again. At 29 degrees again. And the last
whole year
time
is going to be karmic. The whole
yes,
thing
the
karmic.
whole year is karmic. And so the last time it was in Aquarius Leo was in 2007, and the iPhone was invented. So let's talk about some of the new inventions.
Yes, please. Go right ahead, Kelly.
Well, I mean, with Aquarius is humanity, and also these new inventions. The first man on the moon was in 1969 when Aquarius was in Leo. So there are some extraordinary things that will come out of this period of time.
Yeah, I think that I got a sense the logarithms programming they use will completely change. The whole AI thing will change logarithms and perform complex tasks, different tasks that we don't, and for more efficiency, if you will. So that's going to change everything. I know that, I'm old, that the chip, computer is a big deal. It's something like that is brought out, processing or helps with processing that makes things even faster with our devices. I think there's going to be some kind of something that brings 2 or 3 devices together as one. And I know it has to do with a lot with logarithms and I want to say AI and logarithms. It all comes together, if you will. Yeah. Wow. It sounds weird trying to explain it all, but that's the hits I was getting, and it's all that. It's really all that with AI and also robotics. I also think there will be more of a car that just drives it on its own. That's going to be more prevalent.
Well, that would make sense with these nodes. It would make total sense because, again, the internet was even invented in 1969, really, if you can go back that far with it. But the iPhone, the internet, man on the moon, that's the kind of thing. So flying cars, that would fit.
Yeah. And like I said, the chip, remember the chip was a big one when someone said the word chip. Yep. It's going to be something like that. Because the term's going to be used for this new way of programming logarithms, or it's going to come out with something new that we all go, and it's going to happen. No doubt about it. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's going to be, I brought the vehicles, smart cities, data processing. I think there's going to be a lot more reliance on technology than ever before.
Smart cities, that makes sense. That falls under this category as well.
Smart cities, yeah. I do think there'll be some exploration too in space. I do think that there's going to be an awareness that there are other galaxies. I think there's going to be something in science that happens that make people aware that there's something way beyond us. And I do think we call them UFOs, whatever, ETs. We're going to have a sense of what that really means. That they're not necessarily warlike, but there's life that exists outside of the human. I think that more and more people will become aware of that. It'll be presented, if you will. And I think they're going to find that. And more and more people will be open to that because more spirituality, more sense of awareness. And they'll be aware of other life forms, if you will. I get that really strong.
Oh, good. Right. It's about time, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's about time.
A new way of, I'm going to say this, I'm going to repeat this, a new way of entertainment. So, with karaoke was a big deal, different. Something's is going to change where it's going to be much more grounded in entertainment. So whatever that means, I don't know if it's going to be a new kind of a dance or a new kind of formation of something, but it's going to be a different way of entertainment. There's going to be some new things there.
Oh, I like that. I actually like that one.
Yeah,
well, when we get to June, July, and August of 2025, Saturn is going
to... Around that time, though, I kept on seeing even computers, everything getting smaller. So, we have the little iPhone. I think things are going to be much more compact. And the summertime, whether it's Apple's going to reveal it or some other company, but it's going to think something is smaller, even more compact. So sorry, just had to say that.
Oh no, I like that. That's a good thing. It's Saturn at that particular time, June, July, and August. Saturn, which is the planet of karma, and there's a lot of things that go on with Saturn, but and responsibility. It conjuncts Neptune and in Pisces, and so what that could bring are major storms and earthquakes.
Yeah.
So earthquakes, I'm going to say in June, July, and August,
Yeah.
big earthquakes.
I think Indonesia is going to be rough with that next year.
Ooh.
Indonesia, I do, I do, I do, and I think an earthquake in Africa, some country in Africa is going to be a major earthquake. I do, and I do think Italy. I've said that before. Something's going on with Italy, not bad. It's just it changes. Something changes. The land formation. There's something a volcano. There's something volcanic activity. I think comes about a lot next year.
Well,
And
that would fit under this June, July, August time because it has Mars will be in Leo until July 28th. It's an extremely fiery energy time, James. So it's really what you just said with all of that.
And it's going to be extremely hot through Europe. It'll be we're going to have temperatures like we've never seen. I mean, I know we had this past year, but it's going to be really bad, even worse. I think there'll be a lot of deaths attributed to the heat waves. I do. And I think Greece also, there's going to be some probably heat there. I say the whole region, heat. And even parts of the U.S. will be very, very hot. Different parts. It's weird. It's like a hopscotch map when I see that. It's like this area is hot, and that it's just kind of weird. But
so extremes again.
Extreme. It's all about extremes next year. All about extremes. Yeah. I also think there's going to be a whole thing about how people parent their children. That's going to come about, and how behavioral sciences will change in some way.
Wow. Right? Oh, yeah. Really interesting. Yeah. Wow.
What do you see September, August,
September we have, again, when we get to, even in July and August, we have, there's a lot of Mars energy during that period of time. And again, if I go to a 9-year and we're in Mars is going to conjunct K2. It's a very intense time. So June, July, August, still very intense. And then when we get to September, James, we have two more eclipses on September 7th and September 21st. So these are big energies that I believe transform everybody's lives changes. Transformation happens.
Could you see that several wars would happen at the same time in different parts of the world? I mean, it is now, but I think there'll be more of that.
Yes. Explosive wars.
Explosive.
Yeah.
And surprises, extreme surprises. Yeah, I do think there'll be a lot though of across the board revealing of illegal activities, almost like the Pete Diddy thing, but larger like political openings that things that are masks are now, but the masks are taking off. Yeah. Masks are going to be taken off, and people are going to be held accountable.
You know what I think, James? I think that when we get to about mid-2026, life is easier.
Mid-2026.
Yeah, I think that this is a period.
That's far away, Kelly.
I know, but I think that we go. We're kind of going through this.
Yeah.
This period.
It's intense.
It'll be intense. Yeah. I mean, I know that you and I have talked about every year. We'll say it's intense. It's intense. This year really is. It's a completion year, so it's fulfilling a lot of things that need to be completed.
Yeah, I would say next year. I would sum it up as extreme transformation.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Yes. Which doesn't mean you lose your sense of humor. It doesn't mean any of that. You know, you learn a lot about yourself, a lot about others.
How you treat life. You know, I also think there'll be a strong sense of oneness that people have this, and I don't know how they're going to come about with this, but I do get the sense that people are going to be much more aware that they're connected, that they're one.
And that's the humanity piece.
That's it.
It's really important for everybody to remember that piece.
Yeah. One to me, you know, someone says, what do you think of love? I said, love is one. The two biggest illusions we have in this vibration is death. There is no such thing. And the other is separativeness. We feel separate from one another. But in truth, we're not. We're all connected. No matter what color your skin, what language you speak, we all have that life force, the same life force in all of us. So it's that one, O-N-E, omnipresent, nurturing energy. I think that more of that's going to come out next year, and people are going to finally say, "Wow, that's really what it's like to be, awake."
I have chills when you said that. And that also will probably have a lot to do, James, with that Venus energy that comes in an exalted place, bringing a lot of love and healing to the world.
And Kelly, when does that start happening?
It starts in February, I believe.
February. And it goes throughout the year. I mean, it goes through.
We'll feel it for some time. Actually, it starts the end of January. So this is a perfect thing because, as you were talking about earlier, groups coming together in humanity, and like we are the world, like that.
We are the world. Yeah. I think also, I'm just going to say it. I have to. I think there's going to be that sense of people taking responsibility, that their spiritual selves, that their soul selves. I think because we have extremes, it forces us to do something. And I think it's going to force us to go within. And I mentioned this earlier, but go within and unlock who we truly are, if you will.
Love it.
And live that passion. And a lot of great things, I think, as far as humans go and how they treat one another. You might have extreme with the war, but then you have this incredible connection with the oneness with people. So
you might find your purpose in life. This is a great year. If you do not know your purpose in life, you'll figure it out this year. This year, the world will pull you in to help.
And I think, Kelly, I want to say to people too, when I was getting into this, jump into it. Have the courage to do something you've never done before. I mean, I wouldn't have been a medium if I didn't just jump into it. And I was saying to someone today, my love this saying, what other people think of you is none of your business. You're going to have a lot of that next year. So live your truth. Be true to yourself. Right. Don't try to fit in. Never try to fit in because it's really boring. Be your unique. Every single person is a unique being. Like I often say, snowflakes. No two snowflakes are alike. But together, when you have all the snowflakes as one, it blankets the land, and it's so beautiful.
I love that. That's so true.
So
and this would be a great time, James, for people to take one of your classes.
Yes, it would be a great time because it's all inspiration. It's all inside work. It goes inside, and it provides a healthy understanding of ourselves and all the endless and unlimited, infinite possibilities, Kelly.
Yes, and I have a class called Infinite Possibilities on January 18th, which is I'm teaching this, which is going to be wonderful.
I forgot.
Yes, with Julianne Siegel, and we're going to talk about a lot of the infinite possibilities, but anything that's limiting you. It's a great class to take with us, and we're going to be using also a lens of feng shui too in this class. So it'll be great. Yeah, it'll be a great class.
Yeah, and everybody, we're going to have next year some great guests, and we're going to have some different types of insights and different types of subject matters we're going to talk about, and we're working on that now. So it'll be really, really fun next year. I just know that
it's going to be great. Yeah. So don't worry, James and I are along for this ride. So you don't have to worry. We're here.
Right. Well, thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, James.
Yeah,
thank you so much, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy holidays, everyone. Bless you. We'll talk to you later. God bless.